And so I said, no, we're not doing any of that. And it's simple. So if it looks like a squat, bench, and deadlift, it counts.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Marcus here on Twisted Barbell. I want to welcome you to another episode of Get to Know Your Fitness Industry Influencers and Leaders. I'd like to introduce my guest interviewee, Joe Gray of Gray Matter Lifting, who is the founder and organizer of the very popular garage gym competition. Joe, thanks for joining me for this second interview of my series.
Of course. Glad to be here.
You began the garage gym competition in 2018. What made you come up with the idea to organize a competition for home lifters?
Yeah, so I'd been training since I was 18, kind of off and on early on, and then really consistently for probably about 8 to 10 years or so, maybe a little bit more. But I had never competed in powerlifting. I had followed powerlifting, I had followed Elite Fitness and T Nation and all these different guys, and it was something I was always interested in, but making the time to actually go out and compete on a weekend just never happened. I was working, I had school, my wife had school, we had obligations elsewhere, and then we bought a house, and then you have all this stuff around the house, and then we were talking about having a family, and so it just keeps going. And I like to say those are excuses because some people find the time, but I kept having an excuse. So I said, I think we can come up with an idea where we can take this concept of powerlifting, a actual competition, and make it suitable for people like myself, a lot of the other people that I saw around the world who were lifting at home, where we're very busy, and we can take away a lot of those kind of barriers to entry and get people in. That's kind of where it came from. We just thought, it'd be cool to have a powerlifting meet for people who lift at home for that group. And it's gone from there. So then I reached out to guys like Adam at Garage Gym Lab, JB at GarageGyms.com, Jake at Garage Gym Experiment, John Greaves at Garage Gym Live Media, a whole bunch of different guys, and said, hey, what do you think? And they said, yeah, that sounds awesome. I said, would you want to sponsor in some way? And they said, sure. So I had talked to them in the past about some things, but that was just a blind open. And then we went from there. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And speaking of Adam, he agreed to be my next interviewee.
Awesome.
I'm excited about that as well.
This is the first time I will be on something before Adam, so I'm happy about that.
There you go.
I seem to always hop on podcasts and stuff like a week or 2 or 3 after him. So
yeah, he's a good guy. I'm looking forward to interviewing him as well. But I'm definitely excited about this interview because I think what you did with this competition virtually is pretty amazing. Yep. It's global now, right? I don't know if it always was, but there's got to be a lot of crossing your T's, dotting your I's to make sure it goes off without a hitch. And I think you do an amazing job.
Thanks.
So, what was your main goal for organizing such an event originally? And did you originally think of repeating it annually?
So, no, I didn't go into it with an idea of it being annual. I just kind of went into it with an idea of let's try this and see what happens. The original goal was like that simple. I had just finished my master's like a year before, so I had a little bit more time, but my daughter was here. Like I was still busy. So we just kind of came up with the idea and said, I think it would be cool. I made the flyers in paint. It was real low key the first year. Ran everything on my own personal Instagram and just said, here it is. Through word of mouth and stuff, we had 80 people that participated. I said, okay, well, I thought that was a really good number. I said, cool, we'll be back. And people were asking, like, are you going to do this again? And my first response was, well, even at that point, it was a pretty decent amount of work. And I said, I don't think I want to do it more than once a year. I think I'll kill myself just by juggling everything that I'm doing. Yeah. And so I'll come back. How about we come back next year and we'll do it again? People are on board. So then every year the goal was just, let's do it a little bit bigger, a little bit better. I became a moderator on Reddit that same year in 2018. And so I started connecting with companies to do AMAs on Reddit and then also sponsor the competition. So our sponsorships went way up on the competition by working with Jake and Adam and all those guys in year 1 and then saying like, hey, could you introduce me to some of these companies you talked to in year 2? And their reach increased like crazy as well. They were going from, a few thousand followers to 20 or 50,000. In year 3, I think was when we made the dedicated Instagram page for the competition and the website and stuff. Things got a little bit more formal. I brought in some more people behind the scenes to help me, all volunteers. And every year was just, okay, here's some things that I saw that either didn't work or I thought might be cool. Feedback from people, let's try it, and just keep chipping away. And at this point now, I've got a legitimate 5-year plan written out with how I'm going to grow on different social media channels, different offerings I'll do, with a list of items to plug in different years as well, depending on how it grows, because my goal has been to grow it sustainably and actually be able to scale, because knowing that like the last 2 years we've had 1,200 participants. If I tried to do everything really manually, I'd have to hire 50 people to do all of it. Leveraging technology and all kinds of good stuff as much as possible to be able to make it do that. So yeah, it's every year it's just been chip away and make it a little bit better.
What I've seen so far, I definitely see some growth. I see it really becoming more and more popular. And I can actually envision this becoming more popular than in-person meets, the way you've set this up to actually be for the lay people from home. And now, since the pandemic, with home gyms becoming so popular, I think it's just going to get maybe out of control for you at some point in popularity, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
I saw you post something on Instagram today that you're going to do your first in-person meet later this year in your, I guess, from your home area or maybe a gym nearby. But did you create this as a virtual meet strictly with that thought in mind, virtually? Because obviously when you did this, 5 years ago, pandemic wasn't around then. It just worked out very well for the last couple of years where everyone was locked in to their home gyms and training as they could. So what was your intention there?
I want people who lift at home to be able to lift from home and compete from home. If you have a home gym, you can lift in your own home gym and you can compete with your own equipment, the equipment you lift with all the time, your own bench, your own bar, your own plates, your own rack, etc. And you can fit that in how it works with your schedule. Most meets, you have to show up on a specific day, weigh in, wear the right equipment. You're there all day long, waiting for your turn to lift. Yeah, exactly. Right. You probably lift a combined like 7 minutes, but you're there for 12 hours.
Yeah.
For the average person, that's just it's not realistic. So we said, okay, you can compete throughout, the entire week, right? If you squat on Monday, bench on Wednesday, and deadlift on Thursday, just keep doing that. As long as you do your lifts during the week and upload them in one post, you're good to go. That mindset was the initial concept. Remove barriers to entry, so virtual was perfect. In year one, however, we had Ryan DiPompeo, who runs Working Class Barbell up in Illinois. He's got let's say about 10 people who show up on a fairly regular basis to his garage to lift and train together. He ran a meet that first year that coincided with the garage gym competition. And he had asked me is that cool? Can I do that? Will my people qualify? I said, of course, that'll be awesome. And he blew it out way more than I expected. I mean, he had judges and all kinds of stuff. He made his own red and white light switches and stuff. And they've got videos from that first year. They're, hitting ammonia, taking a shot of whiskey, and then pulling a big deadlift, right? I mean, it was as backyard badass as you can get, right? So every year, other than when the first year when COVID hit, he's done that. He's done a big meet, and it's gotten bigger every year. And they've brought out a guy to do filming and photography. They had, I think one year they had a sponsor that sponsored them with a keg of beer. They have the barbecue going with food and spectators. That event was so cool over the years, and it's inspired other people to do something similar, to where they've invited friends, family, neighbors, whatever it might be, to their place to lift, that we decided to make it a formal process. So we were actually going to do it in year 3, and then COVID hit, and we said, let's not encourage people to cohabitate at one time. This year we went, all right, we think it's the right year to finally, peel the Band-Aid off on this one and release it, and we put it out there. Yeah, so I am at my own gym hosting. I'll probably have about 5 people for a small one this year, mostly probably almost entirely people I know. And then my goal is each year to do like Ryan has done and make it bigger and badder. And so you'll have probably about 20 of those this year is my guess by the time the numbers finalize, of people hosting anywhere between 5 to 10 people at their place. And it'll be anything from, I have some friends over and we lifted and we cheered each other on, to Ryan's meet, right? From really basic to really, almost a legitimate powerlifting meet.
Sure.
But it's still virtual, because all those lifters are still going to record their lifts, upload them to enter, etc. They're just getting together to do it as one. So.
That's pretty cool, I think, because
the
camaraderie to that, it's organized. I'm sure they're having a lot of fun. But I do like being able to spread my lifts throughout the week. So I may refrain from doing that, which is nice for me. Pretty impressed with the sponsor partnerships that you've cultivated. Last year you had a ton. How difficult or easy has that been for you? And do you now have certain sponsors who either reach out to you or ask to participate annually as a general rule?
Year one, I had that group of like 8, and it was all people that I just said, hey, you want to do this? And they said, yeah. And then after we put it out, I had another maybe like 8 or so that reached out and said, hey, this is really cool. Can we hop on board? I said, sure. Year 2, I had like 15 to 20 or something. I reached out and said, hey, do you want to do this? Yeah. We lost a couple from year 1. They either weren't in business anymore or whatever it might have been. But most of them said, cool, yeah, sounds cool. Year 3, kind of same thing, reached out. And year 3 was when COVID hit. I think that was the first year I had more leverage, because you had so many companies who were at first like, people lift at home, who cares, right? They didn't see it as a real market. A lot of companies were like, it's a one-off sale at best. I want to sell 50 units to a commercial gym, right? And then all of a sudden that wasn't an option across the whole planet. And they went, oh, people are still lifting. They're just at home. Let me figure out how to get in front of them. If you were following anybody on Instagram at the time, you saw people like Jake and Adam and stuff doing, I mean, they were doing giveaways every 4 days, right? I think Jake probably gave away $100,000 in stuff from companies who were like, please let me leverage your network so people know I exist, so they buy from me, right? And that's where the competition kind of took off a little bit. Was I reached out to some of these companies who were predominantly in the past commercial, like a Prime Fitness, and they said, hey, would you be interested? And with no hesitation, and he goes, okay, we'll put in a single stack, which is like I think it's like a $4,000 unit or whatever it is, right? And he's like, how does that sound? And I'm like, fantastic, right? Here's a guy I've never talked to at all before. I get a random generic email to contact him from their social, and he throws that in without any bartering, hesitation, phone call, nothing. Intech did something similar. They threw in their 5 to 50 set of raw dumbbells, which are just gorgeous dumbbells. And so year 3 just blew up because of that. These companies were like, please let me get in front of people, so then that way I still exist as a company. Last year was a little bit different, but close to the same thing. Companies were trying to figure out, how do they transition when COVID is a thing, but it's not a thing, but it is a thing, but there's lockdowns, but there's not all lockdowns, and that whole jazz. And then this year is even crazier, because most places are open, most gyms are available, but not everyone is going back. And a lot of companies don't. A lot of companies are struggling in terms of getting like stock. So like, you talk to Kabuki Strength, and this year they put up coaching and like nutrition courses and stuff. And the reason why is because they're so backlogged on their equipment, because they can't get like nuts and bolts and stuff. So they can make like 97% of their bar, but they can't get this one extra thing. And so the main guy that I talked to, he goes, why am I going to put up a bar that I can't get someone for 6 months when I've got a list of 175 people long who are waiting for the bar as well? And he says, come back to 2023 and we'll have a different discussion for sure. But like right now, it's nuts. And so I have a list of companies who, without a doubt, like Prime is a really good example. Every year he's just like, I'm in, like no big deal. You support the competition, you do really good stuff. Ghost is great. Juggernaut, a lot of these guys I think are going to be on board for years and years to come without any kind of issues. For 2023, like, I've got a handful of companies who told me specifically this year, we're not in this year. I almost guarantee we'll be in next year.
Nice.
So their hope is that we'll return to normal in some fashion, and then they're going to be in, because they're going to need to. They know that once the world is normal again, they're going to have to compete with all the companies that showed up during the pandemic and are still around. So you went from, 2 adjustable dumbbell companies to 10, right? You went from 3 companies who made equipment to 25. Right. Even like talking about Ghost, there's like 4 or 5 different companies now that make roller J cups, right? Yeah. Like Ghost was the only one, and now there's a bunch of them. You're going to see a lot of those companies figure out that they're going to have to spend more money and time and stuff in these communities if they still want to be relevant and not lose the traction that they've made over the last year or 2. I have a home gym. My neighbor 2 doors up has a home gym. My neighbor 2 doors down has a home gym. Around the corner, we have another family that has one. There's a guy like 2 or 3 doors down from him that has one. And then there's another one, maybe 5 to 10 houses down, that has one. And that's just the garages that I have seen open that I've noticed on my block, right? If the companies are not getting involved in the home gym space, they're going to lose a lot of potential revenue. So,
Your competition is pretty cool because there's no registration, no fees for participation, and yet some of the prizes are pretty phenomenal. It's still very surprising that there's such a great deal of participation from various sponsors with such phenomenal prizes. What do you attribute that to?
Probably a couple of things. So easy one is we had 1,200 people participate the last 2 years, right? Each year. I tried to compare to actual virtual events and stuff. And when you come up with what our numbers look like, we're pretty high up there in terms of virtual event like success rate and stuff like that. From a marketing stance, let's take someone who's got 100,000 followers. There's no way that they can tell you how many of those people actually have a home gym and are going to buy anything. Whereas I can tell you for sure 1,200 people participated because they have a home gym and they buy stuff for their home to lift with, right?
That's right.
That's a simple piece to the puzzle. I'm active on Reddit and a bunch of different subs, and I'm now a Facebook mod alongside Alan from Garage and Fanatics. That group has like 80,000 people. So I sell that piece as well, and I say, I am very heavily involved in the home gym community as a whole. Working with me means more than just a logo on a flyer for the competition. It means me talking to people, educating them on your product, spreading that on all kinds of different platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, etc., blog, all kinds of things, emails, and so you start to add up a lot of those things. You start to paint that picture. You start to talk about the stuff that we're doing. And I actually had this year a really nice pitch deck that I put together with the help of a good buddy of mine. It's like most people send off an email and go, give me money, thank you, please, right? And that's the end of it. And A7's like, you put it all in a easy to read deck that's got good data, good visuals, good selling point. You've got links out if we want to find more info, which we did, right? They spent hours on our website looking at the results and the videos and the participation and reading the articles and stuff. And they're like, we want in, we want to do this. And that takes up a lot of time, but it's well worth it. So otherwise, again, I just be another, and I was for the first couple of years, I just went, hey, this is the thing I do. You want to do it?
Yeah. Without a real pitch and numbers to back it, right?
Yeah, I'm using more tools this year to build some, better metrics and, visibility. And, like Reddit has finally given us as moderators and stuff, data on views on posts and things. And so I can do some more work on tabulating, like what's the actual amount of eyes that goes out on your posts and compare it depending on who's posting what, where, when, why, and all this different stuff, and try and come up with even more justification for why these companies need to be involved in the competition kind of thing.
Now, the prizes for this competition of yours, they're not based on performance, although there are some for top lifts, most improved, and more, if I'm not mistaken. But it's more of a raffle style, right? I'm guessing that's to encourage participation. Yeah,
so we give out, one of our sponsors, Wait It Out. They make these really cool steel plates. And so he can laser engrave on them. So he's going to laser engrave their competition logo. So this guy right here on the plate and turn it into like a metal. And so those will go out to what we call the top athletes. So it'll be the top 3 males, the top 3 females, the top 3 most improved. So it's compared to whatever if you competed last year, it's percentage-based improvement for this year.
Right.
And then I think I have one spot open for what I call dealer's choice. So basically I can pick one person that I want to award something for some reason. Everything else, so everything from the grand prize, which is a 4-post Go Strong rack, a year Juggernaut AI app, a 30-minute Zoom call with Chad Wesley Smith, and all of their clothes and books and stuff. It's like a $6,000 cumulative prize, all the way down to shirts, and then up to bars, to whatever. Literally everything goes out in this open drawing. And so if you squat 100 pounds or 1,000, if you total 10 or 2,000, right, you have an equal chance. It literally doesn't matter. Some of these things are kind of dual purpose. So one, we said, if you wanted to review every single submission and try to say, who lifted, does it qualify, did they reach depth, did they not, did they touch on the bench, did they lock out fully on deadlifts, and all these different things, you get into a really nasty web of being that guy on the internet who goes, I think you were 3 millimeters too high on your squat. And it's just not possible to do it at the scale that we have, right? 1,200 plus people. I'm not going to review 1,200 videos individually for all that. It's just,
your job is hard enough already.
Yeah, and that's part of it. But really, it came out because of, like you said, it's the inclusivity piece. We said, I think powerlifting, as awesome as it is, all the rules and all the subjectivity around depth and different things, and the fact that every federation does it a little bit differently, that's the confusing part to me, and the biggest barrier of entry for powerlifting, I think, for most people, is they just don't get that piece. And so I said, no, we're not doing any of that. And it's simple. So if it looks like a squat, bench, and deadlift, it counts. And it's that simple. We have very basic rules out there that say, like, this is what it should look like. And we're doing more this year with Juggernaut specifically to go through and say, like, this is how to squat better, this is how to bench better, this is how to deadlift better, and all these different things. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't care. That's not what it's about.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people lose sight of that, forgetting that everyone's body is different, everyone is physically different, body mechanics work differently. Maybe there's a past injury or something, and they're quick to criticize. But you know what? You got to give credit where credit's due. The person is there trying. They're doing something. It doesn't have to be a perfect squat or deadlift. And it's kind of ridiculous that people waste their time and breath mentioning those things. I think the way you've done it really makes it pretty cool. And despite the non-regulated nature of this event and not being sanctioned by an official like powerlifting organization, you still have some pretty incredibly seasoned and accomplished lifters participating. Did you ever expect it to be as popular as it is, even with accomplished lifters like that?
I didn't. I originally, because that wasn't the target market, right? I really honestly never thought that they would show up to my event to lift and put in as much effort as they do. I thought, like, if they were going to show up, they would kind of half-ass it and be like, oh, I've got a meet in 6 weeks, so I'll just hit some like 70%, lifts or something. And I've heard this from a number of people. What they like about the garage gym competition for that group is they go, it's just about lifting. And so if you love to lift, you can show up and you can lift and have a good time. You can remove a lot of that craziness that comes with competing and just lift to lift.
Right.
Brandon, who competed last year using Juggernaut training, and he managed to line it up to where his max effort week was the week of the competition. And so he didn't have to change anything. It just lined up and good to go.
That's what I'm doing myself this year. I'm on Jeff Nippard's Power Building 3 program, and I was at like week 4 or 5, but I wanted to time out my max testing week, if you will, with the competition. So I restarted the program week 1, like 2 weeks ago, just to line it up. But this year you're actually doing 2 competitions, right? 2 competitions,
adding social media channels, more posts, more all kinds of stuff. The real win is I get to do something I really honestly love and want to continue to do, that I'm learning a ton about, and I get a lot more time at home.
That's awesome.
There's just all kinds of benefits that don't have a dollar figure attached to them, but make a real difference in my life, my family's life.
Yeah. And I'd fully expect things to pick up in a way where it could be more rewarding, because I think what you're doing is pretty amazing. I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into just prepping. And that kind of brings me to my next question too. I guess maybe now will essentially work on year round.
Yeah. Two competitions make sense from a marketing, social media, engagement, et cetera stance. It also makes sense for the athletes. Your average person, so it's like 80% of our people don't compete anywhere else. This is it. It's just a graduate competition. So that tells me that if we have a 6-month window and a 6-month window, so event 1 and event 2, I've now got you as a typical athlete focused for the whole year. So you have, exactly, right? So you have enough time to have an off season. You have enough time to have a peaking and prep for the actual competition, to compete, deload, and then start it all over again, which is how it's supposed to go. If you look up stuff from Juggernaut and different things like that, and you just Google search like how many powerlifting events should I do in a year, the answer is 2 to 3. It makes sense for everyone to say. And
so share with us the kind of lifting that you do and what kind of numbers you put up.
Yeah. So I would probably call myself a power builder. So like you were saying earlier with Jeff Nifford's stuff, when I started lifting, it was bodybuilding focused. That was kind of my big thing. I did leg presses and curls and all kinds of stuff. And I don't think I really squatted or deadlifted until at least a couple of years in. What I tell people is I spent more time doing everything wrong than right, for sure. And so that led me to the home gym, because I went, well, why am I paying someone and driving across town, all kinds of stuff?
You don't need all that equipment.
Yeah, exactly. I have one machine that does a lot of stuff in the gym. I've got my rack and bars, and currently what I've been doing is I do 2 a days. So in the morning, early afternoon, I do my big compound lift, so squat, bench, deadlift, and then in the afternoon I do my accessory hypertrophy work. In terms of my lifts, so I'm 6 foot and I'm weighing in right around 245. My best lifts to date: 550 squat, so that's with wrap, a 350 bench, and then a 555 deadlift. Hoping that in May we're looking a little bit closer to 600 for that deadlift. Squat, I'm hoping for somewhere between 450 and 500. And then bench, if I could get close to 350 again, I'd be pretty happy. If I can be healthy and move forward consistently, would be like a 600, 400, 600.
That's pretty impressive. Hearing you talk about the numbers you're aiming for the competition, I know others that I follow and I'm friends with on online and different. The garage gym competition is a goal for them to hit certain numbers for them, which I think is pretty cool, because we're all training for our own personal goals, to stay healthy and fit and keep in shape. But it's nice to have something that's a target. We're not doing it for anything. We're not necessarily going to win prizes. You might, but you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for fun. You're doing it to be part of this whole virtual online community of home gym lifters. And I think that's pretty phenomenal.
What's cool is the competition gave her the focus to show up regularly, day in and day out, to lift and to work towards something. Because she competed or was trying to, she had something that she was working towards. And then same thing for the next year. She wants to feel better. She wants to move better, those kinds of things. So she's kind of transitioned her original focus to be something else, but the competition was the fire that, actually got her. Yeah. I love it. I'm the typical, I'm going to lift and push for the biggest weights possible. My wife used it as a catalyst to be consistent in the gym, and she has been for years now. And my daughter uses it to just be a cool kid that lifts some weights and does some cool stuff.
Sure, she'll be impressing us in years to come. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I only imagine it's going to get better every year. And I think, honestly, I could see planning to compete both times for the year. And I can only see that same 2,000 or whatever it is, aiming for the second time a year, because it's something that keeps us focused on a target. So I think
I'd like to think that from year 4 to 5, so this is 5, that we will go up. We will go from 1,200 to, I'd be happy with 1,500. I think my target is about 2,000. And then the stretch goal was somewhere around 2,200 to 2,500. The inclusion of Juggernaut is a nice one, adding on the additional social media but I never know. I never know until the end of, until I wake up Monday after the competition closes and I pull a report. I scrub duplicates and I go, there's the number. So,
All right, Sarah. So I'm done asking questions. I enjoy doing this, and I like when the conversation is flowing well, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this. Now, my subscriber base isn't very big. It's paltry compared to yours, but I'm going to make sure I share all of your information in my description. And so hopefully I can do something to help maybe one or two individuals who might know about me, but somehow mysteriously doesn't know about you. So hopefully we can get some more participants, because I think what you're doing is great.
Cool, man. I love it. Yeah. And of course I'll do the same. I'll get it out on mine. So I think you're doing cool stuff. So
thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. I look forward to the competition, and I look forward to seeing how it, what kind of turnout you get. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know.
I appreciate it.
All right, Joe. I appreciate your time. Thanks for everything.
Go, man.
All right. Take care.